And good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of your radio magazine, Voices of the Tri-States. Folks, are you ready to be inspired today? Well, maybe even a little bit, right? Well, I hope so. I have motivational speaker Matt Booth in the studio with me. With that, Matt, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today.
Hey, Cindy, thanks for having me in.
You're a KDTH alumnus, right? I always get those words, alumnus.
I used to work here.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, of course, with Michael K., and you were here.
Yeah.
And
Gordy.
that was one of the coolest things was working with Gordy Kilgore as a legend. And I'll tell you, I used to live on Bluff Street, down on 4th and Bluff.
Yeah.
And the old studios were just down the hill.
A couple of walks. And
So when we would have a storm, a snowstorm, lots of people couldn't come in. I couldn't do anything else, so I'd just walk a couple blocks to the studio and sit in and take phone calls. And some of the coolest things when Gordy would just stop by, I'd be in on a Sunday night part-time, not knowing what's going on, and just everything hits the fan.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there's Gordy Kilgore. Yeah. And he just put his hand on your shoulder and said, "We got this, Matt.
Hang on, my boy." Yeah.
I said, "What do we do?" He said, "Just turn me on."
Yeah. And that's all you had to do. Him and Betty Thomas and some of the KDTH greats. And you and I have had the privilege, truly a privilege, to work with those folks. But you know, one of the things that I know carried them through in all kinds of weird and wild situations was getting their attitude checked on, having their inspiration always out there. And we're going to talk about you and some of your career in doing motivational speaking. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about your background. You've done a few things other than being here. I've done a lot of things other than here, but this is an important part of your career. But you've always been a communicator, I think.
Yeah, and I grew up, I went to high school and grade school over in Cuba City, but I've always lived right in the Tri-States here, within 20 minutes from where we're sitting right now. I went to school in Platteville for 4 years, but I just love being in the community and being around and getting involved. Of course, that's what we do, and it's in my family blood. You know, my grandpa was a World War II vet, and he was on a Navy ship in the Pacific, and his job, he was a gunner's mate, and his job and his crew's job was to shoot down kamikaze planes so they wouldn't hit their ship that carried troops. Wow. You know, so it's in my blood.
That's an important job. Yeah. So it's in your blood?
It's in my blood. And it's fun to be in the community and to communicate with people. And I've just always been, it seems, on a microphone in front of a group, whether on radio or in person. Also with my DJ business. Yeah. I started that when I was 16. I DJ'd my first wedding down at Oxford Junction.
Okay.
When I was 16 years old.
Metropolis.
At the fairgrounds at Oxford Junction.
So it was probably a good sized wedding, 200, 300 people.
Yeah, back then there was lots of 400 or 500 people weddings.
So it was a big wedding.
Yeah, they just, remember people just put an ad in the paper?
Yeah, Joey and Sally are getting hitched and come on through. We got plenty of turkey and dressing sandwiches and ham and cheese, so come on in.
Yeah, so that's one way I cut my teeth was DJing. So that's standing in front of a group with a microphone and organizing toasts and the first dance and essentially a big party, which is fun.
Yeah, so communicating with folks. What made you decide to do motivational speaking?
Yeah, so when I was DJing a wedding, I had my own equipment when I was 19, and I DJ'd a wedding, and the father of the bride came up to me after the wedding, and I think he'd probably had a couple drinks, and he said, "Matt, you were awesome on the microphone. This was so much fun." And I was thinking he'd give me a tip,
big one.
Yeah, $10 or $20 or something. And he said, "Hey, Matt," he said, "will you come speak to my class of 8th graders?"
Wow. Weren't expecting that.
And I said, "Well, what do you want me to talk about?" Yeah. He goes, "I don't care." He said, "I'll see you on Wednesday morning." And I just went. And I was 19 and 8th graders are 13, 14. Yeah. And I related to him and talked about my DJ business and having a good attitude and customer service and what all that takes. And I just kind of got the bug. That was as much fun, if not more fun, than DJing at a wedding. It was the juice. It was what I loved. Okay. And between the ages of 19 and 29, I gave about 500 speeches all around to service clubs, Kiwanis, Rotary, JCs, churches, schools, but I didn't know you could get paid. I never got paid a dime to do it until I was 29.
And then you said, you know what? My gas costs a little bit, right?
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool if I could get paid at maybe $100 to give a speech? Wow. Wouldn't that be cool?
So your first paying gig, do you remember that?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Yeah.
So my first paying gig, so I wrote down some goals, which is in my book.
And you've written a book too, by the way.
It's my third book, Cindy.
Okay.
Yeah. This book, Basically Incredible, is an Amazon bestseller, came out last year. And there's a part in there about goal setting and goal accomplishment. And when I was 29, I wrote down 10 goals on a piece of paper, and I still carry that.
Those 10 goals.
Different goals, but I still carry my goals around in my wallet.
Okay.
And the first goal that I wrote down was someday get paid $100 to give a speech. And that was a big deal. So I wrote those down. And then I had other goals like learn how to play guitar, buy a house, get a girlfriend, get married, retire, something, just normal goals. But with the exception of the first one, that might look very similar to anybody's goals. And so I had those goals and I started carrying them around with me. And a week after I did that, the Cedar Rapids Rotary called me and said, "Is this Matt Booth, the speaker guy?" Wow. Yes, it is. He said, "Did you just give a speech for the Dubuque Rotary?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I heard it was good." It was amazing, I said. He said, "Will you speak to the Cedar Rapids Rotary?" And I said, "Absolutely." He goes, "What do we need to do?" And I looked at my goals. And I said, "You have to pay me." And he started laughing a little bit. And I said, "Sir, I don't think it's funny." And he goes, "How much?" And I said, $100. And he laughed a little bit more. And I said, "Sir, it's still not funny." He goes, "Will you take $150? Because that's what we have in the budget."
and you said, yes.
Yes.
Wow. So it kicks off there. What's the most unusual group you think you've spoken to?
Lots of unusual groups. So I've worked in all 50 states and then 6 out of 7 continents.
Okay.
I don't know if you know of anyone in Antarctica.
I do not at this point in time.
So if anybody knows of anyone in Antarctica looking for a speaker, we have to check that continent off. Okay. A real unusual group was 3 years ago, Joey and I, my wife, we went to Belize. A credit union hired me in Belize, and we spoke to 8 or 9 different branches around the country. And when I say a branch on a little island, it was made up of 2 or 3 people. Okay. So Joey and I, we took little planes, we took boats, we took a train to one, and we'd go in and we'd secret shop these branches. And we'd go in and say, "We're thinking of moving to Belize, and we'd like to open an account." Well, it's not that simple. You have to have utility statement and an address and everything. And I was kind of the bad cop, and Joey was a good cop. And I said, "Let me talk to your manager." Well, there's only 3 people there. Right. And we talked to the manager, and then the owners and the big people came in because they were the ones we were traveling with. It was very fun. That was super cool. I've spoken a lot in South America and Mexico and Central America. And even though I don't speak Spanish, I'm a slow speaker. I don't speak really fast, and I speak with lots of body language. Okay. So
that got them in tune. And again, I want to remind our audience, we are talking with Matt Booth, inspirational speaker. What that's kind of leading to is a couple of things. First time I saw you do your motivational speaking at our Dubuque Chamber of Commerce business to business, B2B group. One of the things you impressed upon people was just something so simple that I thought, why aren't we all practicing this? Smiling. Tell me about the impact that smiling has. I mean, that's one of the most simple things. People are like, oh, you have to do all of these things for people to like you, Dale Carnegie, how to make friends and influence people. And I've taken that course 3 times. Yes, it still isn't working. But but that aside, how important is smiling? How did you come up with this too?
Yeah, it's basic customer service. And the fastest way to get somebody to like you is to smile. Okay. Now, Cindy, I don't know, do you remember BC?
The comic strip. No.
No, before COVID. Do you remember
before COVID. Okay, I thought the comic strip BC. So, yes, I remember before COVID. Yes.
So back in BC, before COVID, I was speaking at the Memphis Auditorium, Elvis's Auditorium in Memphis.
Okay.
And there was 400 of the top real estate agents in the country, maybe in the world.
Wow.
Okay. And they're buttoned up and trained up, and I'm speaking.
They're all looking really cool, and yeah.
And I asked them that same question. I said, what's the fastest way to get somebody to like you?
Silence?
Crickets. Silence. And it was the most awkward 2 minutes and 47 seconds I ever stood on a stage. It wasn't awkward for me, it was for them. So they should have known this. Yes. This is salesmanship. 101. You know, right. Everybody, customer service, it's all that. But we live in this crazy TikTok viral, 21-day fix, Amazon Prime world, AI world. And I'm speaking for almost 30 years, all around the country, all around the world. If there's one thing I like to do almost as much as speaking to a group, it's listening to other speakers. And I've listened to thousands of speakers and leaders from stages, either before I speak or after. And for the past 20, 25 years, one thing that's in common, they've been saying we need to think outside of the box. We've been thinking outside of the box so much, many of us have forgotten the basics inside the box. We've been told and taught to think outside of the box so much, we haven't been taught or told about the importance of those basics inside the box. And it's those basics inside the box, if you do consistently, lead to an incredible life, incredible relationships, and incredible business. And one of those basics is that that engagement piece, smiling, eye contact. So we get so busy and distracted, and we're working over here. And granted, people are overworked, and we're understaffed. You know, go into any local restaurant or fast food chain and see if people are smiling at you. It is the fastest way to get somebody to like you. People know that, but there's a big difference between knowing something and actually
doing it.
Something. Yes. So we know this, but I'm in front of 400 people. Do you think they've never heard that before?
And they probably have, but no one's come into mind. Well, no one wants to think, I don't want to be the guy that has the wrong answer, right? But we have forgotten some of those things, like you said.
Yeah, so when you heard me speak and it reminded you that, hey, I should
smile.
So
I decided then, after I heard that, I'm going to try this out. And so one of my favorite stories is going to my pharmacy, I won't say which one, and walking up to the counter. And folks, if you are a pharmacist or work in a pharmacy, God bless you, because you are not dealing with people who are at their best. Most of the time they're sick, they want their medications, maybe it's expired, maybe blah, 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 blah. Right. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to go up to this counter and I'm going to smile and I'm going to say, hey, how's your day going? And leave that smile on there. And I'm telling you to this day, with the exception of one person who works at that pharmacy, and I talked to the pharmacist not too long ago, and they're working on her. He told me they're working on her. Everyone else, when they see me, they remember me, and they get a smile on their face too. And I know about a year or so ago, I had a surgery, and I was telling the gal, I'll be back in a week because I'm going to have these meds and et cetera, et cetera. Oh, we'll be here. Don't worry. And, you know, I know your husband, he's standing right next to you there. So if you can't come in, I mean, it was that now extra customer service that was coming back to me because when I approach her all the time, and her coworkers, even the one that's not so nice, I'm smiling. How is your day? All because of you, Matt, because you said that one little thing. And I have noticed this not only there, but if I go to my favorite fast food restaurant and this other place, I try to do it no matter what my day is like. I'm going to smile because I want you, first of all, to have a good day too. And second of all, I want the service coming back at me. You know, it's that back and forth. What I give to you hopefully will come back to me. And it does work. Yeah. You know, folks, believe it or not, like I said, I was almost kind of like, Matt, you're kind of full of, but I'm going to try this out. And it is amazing how it works.
Yeah, and it's so basic. Do you get any more inside the box?
Yeah, you do. You know, and sometimes they'll start talking about oh, my kids or my this or that. When you crack that shell, right? And then you start to get into the psyche. Sometimes I get too much information. That's okay sometimes too. But we need to do this in my impression of the post-COVID world of approaching people of the sense of how are you instead of expecting something so much in return of service. Let's give it back first, right?
Yeah, and a smile's understood in every language.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you're from.
Yeah.
People get it. A smile's like your business card. It's a fist bump from across the room. You know, it's a high five. I even say sometimes, you know, we have aliens now. Cindy, did you know they're...
Oh, we do. Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, okay.
You know, aliens could land their spaceship on top of the studio here, rip off the roof, right? And suck me up into their spaceship, put me on a table to do an experiment on me. And if I smile at them, Cindy, they might not kill me.
Yeah, that's the ultimate, right? I want to save my life. Although I have to tell you, one of the funnier stories too is that I can't remember where I was speaking, and I was actually speaking somewhere, and I was kind of smiling and smiled over it, and people were kind of standing off to the side, and this guy, he kind of nonchalantly looks down like, uh-oh, is my zipper down? Or and he checked himself. So I thought, no, I'm not smiling because your zipper's down. I'm smiling because I'm smiling. But you're right. It made a difference, and it has made a difference in my life. So thank you for that. But there's also some stuff about attitude too, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I used to teach 30 years ago, I used to teach about the value, you live longer, you have a better life, people make more money if they're positive, and I think now everybody knows that. We've all got the attitude bug. We know to be positive. We have, banners up in the break rooms, and it's stickers, and we have signs from Hobby Lobby. It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. Right. Thanks, Zig Ziglar. We have all this. We even have it in our email signatures. But it's really doing it and really hitting the ground, because we talk about it a lot, but most people don't think about their attitude as much as they brush their teeth. Most people go to Planet Fitness or, go work out more times a week than you think about your attitude. And you've heard of CYA.
Right.
And you know what that means?
Cover your you-know-what, yeah. But
yes.
But you have another CYA.
Yes, it's called check your attitude.
Okay.
If you check your attitude, so if you think about it, at least as much as you brush your teeth a couple times a day, you don't have to worry about the other CYA covering your butt. Now, no one can be positive 100% of the time.
Everybody's going to have a bad day, off day, whatever, right?
Bad hour, bad day,
Yep.
But if you're not careful, it's okay to have one of those days. But if you're not careful, one of those days can quickly turn into
two, and to three.
And everybody, I'm sure it's no one listening, but we all know someone who's had like 5 years in a row
of bad stuff
of one of those days. And that's not okay. And I really believe it's that awareness piece. If you think about your attitude and the attitude of those around you, most of the time you can get over it, because you throw in some perspective there.
Right.
Because we really have pretty good lives, most of us.
Yeah. If you think about folks around the world, and you look at, if folks even looked at some of the statistics, I know you have, of just the amount of people in this world who cannot read. People in the United States, 30% of people in the United States cannot read or write. People find that statistic alarming. I do, but if you think about it, most of us probably listening to this, those of us in Dubuque and the tri-state areas, Wisconsin, Illinois, we probably can read and write. 30% of the whole country, of the whole world, they can't.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
and just the amount of stuff that we have, and most of us have pretty good jobs. And I know the days can be hot. Most people listening, you just turn the air conditioner down a little bit. So that's the perspective, because perspective leads to gratitude. So if you've traveled around the world or gone to any third world countries, which I have, Nigeria, and been in Africa, and you see that they have nothing and people that are living on less than $1 a day, it gives you a pretty good perspective of your world, which makes you thankful for where you're from. And Cindy, you cannot have gratitude and negativity. They don't coexist.
Okay.
So you can't be thankful
And then be nasty.
at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, this is checking your attitude. What are you grateful for? One thing I always do in the morning, and folks, religious or not, I do it before my morning prayer, but if you're not, I'm not making a judgment here, but go through your list. What are you grateful for? Are you grateful that you even got up this morning? Because a lot of people did it. Are you grateful that you can walk on your own, talk, see, listen? There's so many basics, right?
Yeah. So here's a ratio for you, Cindy, okay. And for the listeners, if you want to write this down, you can. It's the 3-to-1 ratio. And it was made up by Barbara Fredrickson, and she's a positive psychologist. She's written a bunch of books, and she really studies this whole positivity thing. She said to lead a mostly positive life, you have to have 3 positive thoughts for each negative thought that you have. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio. Now, think about waking up on a Monday morning in February in the tri-state area.
Yeah, it's a little dicey, right?
Okay, so I can do this. So before my alarm even goes off, before I open my eyes on a Monday morning in February, I can be like, it's Monday. See, there's one bad thought. Oh, it's cold outside. There's another one. Oh, I gotta go to work. Oh, what's that noise? That's my kids. Oh, it's picture day. Gosh. And then who's next? Oh, that's my wife next. Do you see how
And then times that by, you have to have 3 positive thoughts to offset.
So if I have 5 negative thoughts before I even open my eyes, how many would I need to counteract them?
Absolutely.
15.
Yeah.
And if that's how I start the day, how are you going to, and where are you going to find 15 positive thoughts in the next couple minutes to counteract them? Yeah. So what could you think before you open your eyes, on a Monday morning when you get up? What do you think? What could you think?
You should think, I got up. I woke up.
I got up.
Yeah.
It's cold outside. But all you really have to do is walk over to the thermostat most of the time.
Or put on a coat when you go outside, which, by the way, a lot of people don't. So put on the coat. Right?
Yeah, put on a coat. I have to go to work.
Yeah.
What?
Okay. A lot of people don't have jobs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. I think about kids. Oh, it's picture day. And then immediately I'm like, I have kids?
Yeah.
Somebody said yes to me having kids, and she's still here. Yeah. You see how it's just those small changes? And I was speaking to a group, I think it was down south in Arizona one time, and there was this older gentleman, and I found out later he's 88. So he raised his hand, and I've made it a rule. Anyone in my program is over 80. If they want to talk, they can. Okay. So he stood up, he goes, here's how my day started. He said, I got up. I got myself dressed. I made myself breakfast, and I drove myself to this seminar. And we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And he goes, and the best part is I remembered everything.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, Matt, as our time kind of ticks off here, if folks do want to reach out to you, maybe have you speak to their group or their business, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can just get a hold of me. My website is mattbooth.com. You can also email me. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, at mattbooth.com. And if you want to call me, just give me a call. It's 563-590-9693. And I've been in the tri-states my whole life for 53 years. And it's always been important to me to do community service and help people. And that's part of my life's mission. And if I can some way or somehow spend a half an hour with you and help you improve your life, that's what I'm here to do.
Fantastic. Matt, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks, Cindy. You are a treasure to the tri-states.
Thank you very much. See, I'm putting a big smile on now. And again, that was Matt Booth, folks. He is a motivational speaker. And as he mentioned, if you want to get a hold of him, or he's got this, it says it's his 3rd book here, which is really cool, basically incredible. And I'll have to take a look at that and I'll let you know what I think. But you can probably download that on Amazon, right? Or
correct. Real easy to find. There's the hardcover book, softcover, and also the Audible.
Okay, very good. And again, folks, motivational speaker Matt Booth. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll talk a little bit of politics. Yeah, Jim McLean, he is running for Iowa State House. We'll be talking with him. Folks, as always, join me right here, 12:30, Monday through Friday. So for today, for Voices of the Tri-States, I'm Cindy Coleman.